Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good evening, everyone. It is June 26, 2018, America. So, a lot of stuff going on, right? So check it out. This is going to be a particularly long video today because it takes me so much longer to break them up into separate videos per topic. So, it's going to be a long video, and I think perhaps worth your time. Otherwise, I don't think I would do it. I'm going to hit the headlines first, and then, of course, go over the articles that I have already chosen. Of course, we already know that Facebook already spies on you, on everybody. Same with Google and many other corporate entities, along with the NSA, FBI, you name it. Americans now own 40% of the world's 1 billion guns. Now, there are more civilian-owned guns in the U.S. than there are people. North Korea has canceled its annual anti-America rally for the first time in years. The author asked Max Slavo, actually, could peace with tyrannical North Korea really be happening? It seems like it could be, as North Korea has canceled its annual anti-America rally for the first time in several years. And this one here. So, not only do we have Yellowstone supervolcano on this continent, we also have another newly discovered, supposedly, supervolcano churning under 3 states. These states would be New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont. And it is creeping upward. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. And of course, I think that is one of the articles I'm going to cover, and in full length, more or less. And the next would be another. Left-wing writer suggests anti-Trump protesters should carry out domestic terror attacks. A far-left columnist for a website owned by Univision Communications has suggested that the next phase of the anti-Trump resistance should take the form of domestic terrorism. Yeah. But we'll get back to that. Now, this happens with many different most of, if not all of, actually, eclipses and the blood moons. But blood moon prophecy is the end of the world soon. On July 27th, the moon will glow a bright red-orange, which will be seen by most of the globe during the longest lunar eclipse of this century. As the moon passes through Earth's shadow, some prophesize that the blood moon event is a significant one, signaling the end of the world. Farmers in America are killing themselves in record numbers. Farmers in the United States are now dying of suicide at a higher rate than any other group. And of course the left, Black Lives Matter, these groups will undoubtedly say that this is a good thing. However, without farmers, you don't eat. Farmers in the United States are now dying of suicide at a higher rate than any other group. Data shows that the suicide rate in the professional field of farming, fishing, and forestry is 84.5 per 100,000 people. That's more than 5 times that of the population as a whole. And Selco, the media manipulated people, bombarding us with fear and hate during the Balkan Wars. Sound familiar? It should, because this is exactly what's going on presently. There are many more choices, sources, and options for how we get information and from what media, but still not too many things have changed. We are still very easy to manipulate with the media. Now, I somewhat like Rage Against the Machine, but here we go. Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello calls for an army of veterans to take on ICE. Well, my wife and I were talking about this earlier, about the refugee thing. Or illegal immigrant. And here's the thing. On one hand, they're human beings. And they're not all criminals. But, on the other hand, and I'm not a law and order kind of person. We already know this. This is a very, very clearly established fact about me. Okay? The thing is, these people come here. Number one, if parents are sending their children on a 1,000+ mile journey, I don't know exactly how far it is from some of these countries, but it's a very, very long distance. It's well over 1,000 miles. Unaccompanied by them or a family member of some kind, I think it's probably the parents' fault for making such a poor decision in the first place. Now, And the same with the parents that accompany their children. Don't get me wrong, it's better, but still, they make this long-ass journey. It's dangerous. Many women get raped along the way, many children along with them, and still, they take that chance. I would have to say that it's very, very, very poor parenting to send a child without you in the first place. But then it's also poor parenting to try to cross the border illegally. And again, I'm not a law kind of person. But whether or not I'm a law kind of person, they still exist, and the fact of the matter is these parents are bringing their children with them to commit a crime. And they know that they're committing a crime when they set out on this journey of theirs in the first place. Now, I totally get it. Their countries are collapsing. They are. And they're trying to get away from it. But the thing is, our country's collapsing. And it's not too far behind theirs. So, basically, they're making this journey thinking that they're going to get the American dream. They're going to get to collect welfare and among a whole list of other shit. And our country is collapsing. So it's just a very, very poor decision all around, and they're going to get on TV and whine about it when they're the ones who set out to break the law with their children present in the first place. As military drops a bomb every 12 minutes, Supreme Court upholds ban on refugees created by the United States. And, of course, in many countries in this world, many, many countries, we have bombed until there's nothing left. But I don't think it's very smart to bring in a bunch of people whose country you just got through bombing. I mean, these people undoubtedly have a whole lot of animosity toward the United States and us, the people, as a result of our government's murderous, genocidal policies. Now, do you see any good logical reason why these people wouldn't want to cause us harm after some of them, without any doubt, witnessed horrific atrocities committed by our military on their friends and families? Now, what if this were to happen to any one of us here in the United States? Well, anyone with a spine, anyway. How do you suppose we would take it? I venture to say that we would react in a similar fashion. perhaps a bit smarter, perhaps on a larger scale, but nonetheless, we would react with the same thing. If I just witnessed my best friend or my daughter or my parents or anything like that murdered by the United States military, or say Mexico, and this is laughable, and believe me, I know it can't happen, but let's say it could, okay? Say Mexico invaded the United States, and, they killed a bunch of people's families and friends, and so on, right? How do you suppose the people of the United States would react to that? And I spoke of this earlier, and it's not going to be an article that I cover, but nonetheless, cops handcuff a 12-year-old boy. And taser him in the back. One more page here. Bombshell accusation: Hillary never had a State Department email address. All emails were sent to her private, unsecure email server. And of course, we're not going to see Hillary pay for any of these things. She's done things so much worse than that, and everyone knows it. The NSA knows it. The FBI knows it. They all know it. And yet, she and Bill walk around, travel here and there, as if, no, they've never had their hand in any of these things. Many people have been led to believe Hillary had 2 separate email accounts. One was a traditional, secure State Department address, where she received most of her classified emails or information. The other was her personal, sloppily run, wide open, unsecured email, where she received some classified information. And this is one I'm going to cover. There is talk of civil war in the land of more guns than people. Are you ready to start shooting? Okay. Of the 857 million guns owned by civilians, the Small Arms Survey says 393.3 million are held in the United States, which is more than those held by civilians in the other top 25 countries combined. And, of course, I covered this earlier. Just briefly. New Jersey, surrender your guns or become a criminal. Are you ready for this shit? I told everybody, as best as I could, that this was going to happen. I told everybody well, Donald Trump was talking about running for president. We're almost there. Alright, let's get into the ones I said I was going to cover. Again, this is a newly discovered supervolcano churning under 3 states, coming from Max Lovel on shtfplan.com. A blob of molten lava has been detected under 3 states in the Northeast. The new supervolcano currently brewing under New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont is creeping upward and surprising geologists. Now, to be clear here, there's no such thing as a new volcano. These things have been here for a very, very long time. The region in which the new volcano was discovered is geologically stable with no active volcanoes in the surrounding area. How do they know? They didn't know about this one, did they? Earthquakes are almost unheard of in the area. That means that the formation of the massive magma buildup in the Northeast is a relatively recent event, scientists say, as if you can trust most of what scientists say in the first place. But keep in mind, in the timescale of Earth's geological processes, this still means tens of millions of years. If these findings hold up, though, the Northeast could be considered more active geologically than previously thought. Now, they always say that things are tens of millions of years off, or whatever number that they happen to give for any particular scenario. Yellowstone, they keep saying that, oh, we're not even close to eruption, but they don't know anything about the volcano. But the animals do. The animals know. And what are the animals doing? Well, what I understand is a lot of the animals are gone. So, I think I would trust the animals before I would trust any of the lion sacks of shit on mainstream media. And I'm going to give you a quote from this and be done. Thought it'd be a good thing to let you all know that there's another supervolcano here in the North American continent. The upswelling we detected is like a hot air balloon, and we infer that something is rising up through the deeper part of our planet under New England. And that comes from Reuters. University geologist Professor Vadim Levin. Oh, no. Damn it. Alright, alright. Oh, what the fuck? And this is why it's going to end up being a long video, because I think all of these things right here, with the exception of this one, I think they're all pretty important. I know you. So, farmers in America are killing themselves. Kind of, you know, they've made life so miserable for farmers and have put them under so much pressure. Monsanto, Sargenta, what's the other one? Oh man, DuPont. They got their thumbs on these farmers' heads really, you know, they're putting the pressure down really, really tight. And then, of course, you get the non-GMO farmers who get sued by Monsanto and the others because the other farmers, their crops get blowover from a Monsanto farmer, and the crop, according to them, turns into Monsanto property. Now, how the fuck does that happen? This too comes from Max Slavo. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I don't remember. Did I cover this already? I do apologize if I do, or did. Farmers in the United States are now dying of suicide at a higher rate than any other group. Data shows that the suicide rate in the profession or professional field of farming, fishing, and forestry is 84.5 per 100,000 people. That's more than 5 times that of the population as a whole. Agriculture expert Chris Hurt, who is a professor of agricultural economics at Purdue University in Indiana, describes the plight facing U.S. farmers today as one of an unequal economic situation. Think about trying to live day to day on the income you had 15 years ago. Hurt said, according to CBS News, Hurt believes that farmers are committing suicide because of the unequal economy that's emerged over the past decade, combined with patchy access to health care in rural areas. These things both have had a severe impact on people growing America's food. Financial difficulties continue to be agreed upon topic of concern, although that explanation remains highly speculative. Most Americans don't want to admit that the root cause of the financial burden on farmers is their own government. Since 2013, farm income has dropped steadily, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This year, the average farm's income is projected to be 35% below its 2013 level, which is a lot, considering the cost of living for inflation, often described as a hidden tax because it devalues your spending money, has risen higher. the data, an important note about the data compiled by the CDC, it appears to be incomplete. The CDC looked at workers in over 17 different states, but it left out some major agricultural states like Iowa. And believe me, I used to live in Iowa. It's corn and corn and corn and more fucking corn. Not to mention, some other stuff, but corn is the main crop there, and of course, it's all fucking Monsanto. I remember as a kid, listening to these fucking farmers at the Hardee's out there where all the farmers gathered and talking about Roundup and all that shit. And these intrusions on our farmers has been going on for a long time. And the occupational category that includes these workers includes small numbers of workers from related occupational groups, like fishing and forestry. It is important to note that the agricultural workers make up the vast majority of the farming, fishing, and forestry occupational group. Excuse me. In the United States, several longtime farm advocates say today's crisis mirrors one that happened in the 1980s when many U.S. farmers struggled economically with an accompanying spike in farmer suicides. The farm crisis was so bad there was a terrible outbreak of suicide and depression, said Jennifer Fahey, communications director with Farm Aid, a group founded in 1985 that advocates for farmers. Today, she said, is actually worse. So, people can't live without food, and if they don't know how to grow their own food, you're at the mercy of farmers. Well, maybe that's a wrong term to use, but you get what I'm saying. Without these guys, who's going to grow the food? The government? The government can't even build fucking roads. The government can't even do a good job at, disaster relief. The government sucks at everything that it does. Everything. So I wouldn't be wanting the government to fix this problem at all. Because everything, and I mean everything, government touches turns to utter shit. Okay, so we've had recently Maxine Waters come out and say that anywhere people see a conservative or let's be honest here. A white person, she wants them to harass them and make it totally uncomfortable for them to be around, and to push them out of the restaurants that they go to. These kinds of shit. And the White House press secretary recently went to a restaurant, and after she was seated, she was then asked to leave simply because she was a Trump employee. So, and you know, there's other people pushing for a civil war still. Now let me tell you right now. Both sides are undoubtedly terrible. One side is certainly a little bit nuttier than the other. However, these people work together, and I've heard it described like this. It's like WWF. Is that right? World Wrestling Federation. I think that's right. The guys pretend in the ring there to be enemies. They talk shit about each other, and you know, they put on a good show for everybody. And then after the match, they go and have beers together, or go to have dinner together, or some shit like that. And this one comes from Paul Dickhead Watson, but I'm going to get into it anyway, because they're not the only ones saying this, and it's here. A far-left columnist for a website owned by Univision Communications has suggested that the next phase of the anti-Trump resistance should take the form of domestic terrorism. And it may be an exaggeration here, coming from them. In an article entitled, "This is Just the Beginning," Hamilton Nolan writes, "This is all going to get more extreme, and it should," remarking that Trump administration officials should not be able to live their lives in peace. Read a fucking history book. Read a recent history book. The U.S. had thousands of domestic bombings per year in the early 1970s, he adds, before predicting, "The day will come sooner that you all think when Trump administration officials will look back fondly on the time when they all had to worry, or all they had to worry about was getting hollered at a Mexican restaurant. When you aggressively fuck with people's lives, you should not be surprised when they decide to fuck with yours." So that comes from the author of the article. Now, of course, the authorities here in the United States, the police, district attorneys, so on, you know, anyone in the law enforcement community with, well, hell, they don't even need arrest powers if they're in that community. They do this to people every day. They aggressively fuck with people's lives every day. They steal American citizens' children over fucking marijuana. Oh yeah, and over prescriptions that the parent was prescribed by a doctor. So, I agree. And it's not just the Trump administration. It's fucking every single one of them. And it has been for a very long time. It's not just the Republicans that are a problem. It's the fucking Democrats and everything in between. Now, see, all this country could have been such a great place. It could have been. And the key, minding your own fucking business. Minding your own business would go a long way into making a great nation. But, no. The fucking people are nosy. Nosy as fuck. I mean, this is one thing. Just one thing. And it would be so much better if people would worry about their own affairs instead of worrying about everyone else's. Earlier in the piece, Hamilton tries to justify his alarmist rhetoric by asserting that the Trump administration is implementing fascism and white nationalism with its border policies. They're all fascist. They're all fascist. And it has nothing to fucking do with white nationalism, you fucking retards. The people who are responsible for what is happening are not going to get out of this with their happy, wealthy, respectable lives unscathed, he concludes, adding, and the ones who make the laws are not going to like what happens when America starts to regard them as the criminals. And they are criminals, each and every one of them, but not for that reason. They're criminals because they intrude on the lives of the American people. They rob the American people at gunpoint sometimes. They tax us into oblivion. They lock us up for very, very long periods of time over what they deem illegal substances. But they slap a fucking pedophile on the wrist when they have the gall to harm one of our children. They're criminals. But not for what this fucking ridiculously retard a retarded individual thinks. This article was posted on Splinter News, a website owned by Univision Communication, under its Gizmodo Media Group division. It is capped with a photo of a limousine owned by a Muslim immigrant who didn't even vote for Trump that was set on fire by anti-Trump demonstrators last year. So, when I told you many months ago that the left would be the first to fire shots, again, I was right. And he goes on to say that it's almost the beginning to sound like some of the things that happened before the Civil War. It's a polarized country, he added. And it's polarized based on things that aren't even true. Aren't even true. And that is how fucking stupid people really are. On both sides. Both sides. Remember, people, just because the conservative side is, to say the least, a bit more reasonable, doesn't mean they don't do evil things or have evil intentions for the American people. Because there are many, many, many documents highlighting this fact. Now, one more thing about this. California Democratic Representative Maxine Waters also told a rally on Saturday, if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gas station, you get out and you create a crowd, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere, prompting some to accuse her of inciting violence. So, no. You try being white and doing that shit. You try it. I think I got them all, except for the top one. And by the way, we own 40% of the world's guns, and we continue to take the shit that's dished out on us by our own government at the federal level and the state government, by the United Nations, by the banks, by the giant corporations, by people like Bill and Melinda Gates. Just saying. Alright. Here we go. Of course, this comes from the Organic Prepper. Daisy Luther, I believe, was the translator for this guy. She helps him out. But his name is Selko. He either is or was in Venezuela as it collapsed. And this will be the final topic. Media is a very powerful and useful tool, and we as preppers learn on it in making our opinions and decisions. Many survival strategies, bug out routes, survival storages, and whatnot are built on what we figure out based on information that media gave us. I belong to a generation that once believed if it was not on a TV, it did not happen. Today, there are many more choices, but in essence, it comes down to the fact that if it is nicely packaged and repeated enough, most of the folks aren't going to believe it. Because of the ways of modern life, we tend to want information very fast and accurate. And the accent is on fast. We want flashy and useful, and the accent is on flashy. And that is how fucking stupid people are. There are many more choices, sources, and options for how we get information and from what media, but still, not too many things have changed. We are still very easy to manipulate with through the media. We begin to hoard information, wanting to know more, but what we get is a lot of junk, with occasional pieces of gold. Also, often information is planted there in order to move public opinion in the direction that someone powerful wants. It's pure propaganda. Now, I've always said to my subscribers that if you see the masses of people going one direction, you go the opposite direction. You go any direction but that one. You do that, and you'll know you have made the right fucking decision. If most of the people agree on something, that is probably not good. No, with some obvious exceptions. You know, there's exceptions, but for the most part, not good. How the media worked right before SHTF. Alright. As I said in my last, or in my time, weeks, months prior to SHTF, the situation was a bit different because of the number of media outlets available. But a lot of things can be pointed at that look similar to what we see today. The ways how people get manipulated through the media or information probably never changed from ages. It simply got more sophisticated and people got more plugged in or simply more dependent on it. Now, when I look back, it is very easy to see that we were fooled by most of the media and pushed in actions that were not smart, but in that time it was invisible to us. The media manipulated people, bombarding us with fear and hate. It is hard now to sum up how all that looks, how media did the job, but some points can be described. They heated up the situation. And of course we see this going on, and have been for some time with our mainstream media, haven't we? I've said it many times. I do apologize for that. That was a business call. Got to do some brakes, spark plugs, wires, that kind of shit. Okay, so they heated up the situation, the media. We were bombarded carefully with loads of information about changes that were coming to us. It was not only about the political system, it was also about the importance of our opinions. After some time of this, folks simply started to believe that our opinion could make a change, or that our opinion was important. If they start asking about your opinion, let me tell you right now, they do not give a fuck about your opinion. After that, we were fed through the media that we were great differences between us, and that the differences were actually so big that they might be a problem for our future life in this region. In reality, you can point out huge differences between any groups of people or political options anywhere in the world, and still that does not mean it needs to end up in blood. But we were led to believe that blood was the only option for solving differences. They increased fear. The next stage was presented in a way that was so intimidatingly logical. Okay, let me try this again here. They increased the fear. The next stage, it was presented in a way that was so intimidatingly logical, was fear. Fear of others, fear of differences, fear of those who wanted different things from us. Media can put great amounts of fear in you by careful and very subtle hints. Sometimes you do not even realize you are in the middle of that process of intimidation, since one day you woke up and felt afraid. Fear is a powerful motivator, and under the influence of fear, you can be compelled to do a lot of things. We all know that fear can also save your life. So it's not always a bad thing, but I am talking about the fear that the system may install in you over a period of time in order to manipulate you. Okay, that is exactly what's going on with this shit about the left-right shit. It's all shit. But what they're trying to do here, Maxine Waters, particularly, among others, journalists, okay, is they don't actually have that much of a problem with each other at the higher levels. Everyone would like you to believe that Trump is, how Alex Jones referred to him, a bull in a glass store or some shit like that, right? In Washington. But the reality is this. He is no bull in that China shop. That's what it was. China shop. He was placed there. He was selected. And he was selected for reasons. Number one, he owed the Jewish bankers billions of dollars. He talks about this bullshit of a rule of law, but he pardons criminal bankers. Doesn't sound like a president who is an outsider. I don't think so. Donald Trump is very, very much an insider. And it's pretty obvious to me. And we're seeing all these phases play out, by the way. I think you know this. They increased the hate, okay? And we've seen this happening against white people in particular. They're getting people of color, whether it be people from Mexico or Ecuador, from Africa, to, you know, black people from America. I'm trying to get all these different groups to begin committing violence on white people. They're going to get their opportunity too. And believe me when I tell you this. Believe me. Here's the bottom line, people. Any of these motions that they're trying to induce, any of these flashpoints they're trying to create, it is your duty to not fall for them. It is your duty to think smarter than that. Our time will come where we'll have our opportunity. And I hope everyone is ready for that. If anyone comes and tries to commit an act of violence on you, you know what to do, don't you? Our time for preparing is almost over with. I hope you're ready, because these actions that are being called for will bring the United Nations out into our streets. It will begin the process of a bigger war on the streets of the United States. Remember, people, the middle of the road is where you want to be. You want to be fair. You want to be just. You want to be everything that these assholes are not. Hope everyone has a good evening. And remember, kill the state before the state kills you.